Hello, everyone, and welcome to Bravo Tea with a Stay-at-Home Mom. I'm Erica, and I'm ready to talk all things Bravo.
Welcome back, everybody. And on this episode, we're going to be recapping the Real Housewives of New York and the Real Housewives of Orange County. And I just have to say, before we get into all that, I finished watching the documentary that was made by the Menendez brothers because I left you off last time where I was falling asleep and my husband's like, I need to pause it because then we're going to have to rewatch all of this because you've fallen asleep. So I stayed awake and we finished it the next night. I cannot wait to see what happens in November. So at the end of November, they are going to request for a new trial because they have new evidence. They have that letter that Eric wrote his cousin that was never entered in as evidence months before the murder, saying he was like scared and he was afraid of his dad. And then also the singer from Menudo has now come out and said he was molested by Jose Menendez. So obviously they don't want to ignore that because the reason that people were half on one side, half on the other side is some people did not believe that they were ever molested by the father or that the mother was kind of just standing by doing nothing. Some people were like, nope, they're full of shit. They just want to make up this story. They're wearing those sweaters because they checked out this book in the jail library. And some people just didn't believe them at all and just thought they wanted money. But now that the Menudo singer has come out, it's like giving them credibility and saying, well, if you think they're lying, you think this guy's lying too. And now lately, like since the Me Too movement, and we're realizing that men can be sexually assaulted. Like back then, people were like, no, this only happens to women. They're just lying. And now we see that it's not just women or it's not just strangers. It can be your own children, which is sick. And then now with all the P. Diddy stuff, I mean, that's just helping them too, because look at what a freaking weirdo that guy is. I mean, we're going to have to like do a deep dive into the P. Diddy stuff once they release some names. It's like, you can't even cover the news. Like every time I go on Instagram, page 6 is like, major celebrities named in this. And it's like, all right, who are they? Like, it's like every day it says the same thing. Don't even publish it if you can't give us names at this point. We realize there's A-list celebrities that he was friends with, that he was doing this weird stuff with. But until you can actually give us names, please stop teasing us. Costco has come out and said, we do not even sell baby oil. So stop dragging us into this. Because he said he got the 1,000 bottles of baby oil because he shops in bulk at Costco. Now, I like to shop in bulk at Costco too. But when you buy something at Costco, bulk means maybe like extra paper towels or extra toilet paper, or like you get 2 giant jugs of lemonade instead of just one medium-sized one, not $1,000 or 1,000 bottles of baby oil. And they said they don't even sell baby oil, which I can attest to that because they don't. They do not. And no one needs 1,000 bottles of baby oil. Maybe if Costco did sell it, I could see it coming in a pack of like 3. But then why would you need to have 1,000 on hand? Just no. So a liar makes up lies, though. When he's caught in a lie, he's going to make another lie to get out of the original lie. But then that's why when these people go to court, they can't even come up or keep up with all the lies. They can't. One interesting thing about the Menendez brother documentary, too, is I was looking forward to hearing from their original attorney, the blonde curly-headed lady. Something, oh, what was her last name? I'm going to look it up while I talk about it. But she did not want to be a part of it, which I was kind of surprised. And she said at the end, she did give a quote, and she said, it's been over 30 years. I need to, it's Leslie Abramson. So she was the original attorney that was portrayed in the Netflix show with the blonde curly hair, and she looked just like her. So in the real one that you can watch, you see a lot of her, and yeah, she did a good job doing the acting part of her. But she said she did not want to do like an interview for the documentary or anything, and that she thinks it needs to just like be put to rest, that teenagers and petitions aren't going to change the trial. But obviously it may, because look, now they're new attorney is going to go before the judge and request a retrial. And if it's granted in November, then maybe she'll say something. I would like her to then get excited all over again, because she really put in the majority of the work and said, she really believed their stories and she heard those stories when it was raw. Now they've had years and years and years to process it. They can probably obviously still get upset telling the stories, but not as upset as back then because it just happened and they were younger back then. So maybe she'll come out and say something. And like I said, I'd love to know if they're going to go on like a podcast and do everything. I mean, this is going to be interesting. It's like they were popular back then, but they're getting super popular all over again. It's very interesting to see all this, but let's just get into the recap of Real Housewives of New York. So Erin cut her hair because her mom is going through cancer. So they originally thought the mom did not even have to go through chemo, but she ended up having to. And it's really sad, and it's really hitting Erin hard. But I think it's really nice that she cut her hair, because she's like, oh, if you have to do it, I'm going to do it with you. Like, major support system. And they're at this fancy wig store. And she said she would wear a wig too. And in her confessional, she pointed to it because obviously then her hair was long. So she got a wig too. And then Uba comes to meet them. And Uba reveals that she is the first person that Erin called her when her mom was diagnosed with the cancer, because she's like, she knows I was really close to my mom. I'm glad Erin and Uba got over that goofy, like, I hid your cell phone thing, because that was so just like childish, kind of, that they were both that upset. And childish for Erin to probably hide her phone, but she was just joking, and Uba kind of blew it out of proportion. So I'm glad we got over that. Love Uba's outfit also. Love that giant like lilac color turtleneck sweater, and then the tan jacket, like trench coat. Love that. And she looked really pretty. And I thought that was good colors on her, but I want to rock that outfit literally with the jeans. Love it. So then they were just talking about how Brynn, they just need to accept that Brynn like connives and changes stories. So you could tell her one thing and then she's going to like twist it, change it, and do like the whisper down the lane. You know how when you play that game and the story changes because people just can't hear people? And it's like you say, my dog ran out the door. And then by the time it goes down the line, it's like, I gave my dog a bath. You know what I mean? Like, it's just totally a different story. And Erin said that in Anguilla, I guess that's how you say it. That's how she said it. I never knew really to formally how to pronounce that island. But that Jenna did tell them at times money was dry. So then Erin telling Brynn the story about she had to pay for her Uber and she never paid her back. Brynn took that, exaggerated it, changed the story to relate back to, oh, yeah, Jenna has money problems, because remember, she was like telling us that, and Erin definitely thinks she's Poe, which is not true. And then Erin is just confessing to Uba that, because she said, how are things with Abe? So Erin hasn't even like told anyone there's problems with Abe. So I think the producers told Uba to ask her that. And she said that she wants to be there for Erin, but that if she doesn't really tell her what happened, she can't really give her advice, which I agree. But Erin said in her confessional that Abe made some decisions without her when like she was going through the cancer shock with her mom. And then since he kind of portrayed her with the decisions, she felt like he wasn't there for her. So thank God later in the episode we find out what it is, which then when we get to that, I will talk about it. But I was like, oh my God, what decisions? So it was decisions. And automatically my brain went to financial decisions, because we know he's not cheating and stuff like that. She said that. So obviously decisions without her, financial. But then Cy and Jenna meet for coffee. So Jenna's like wild. She gets an iced coffee and an Arnold Palmer, just so much sugar and caffeine. And then she's like, can I have milk in my latte? Like actual milk that came from a cow that walked the earth. No nut. I'm with you. Like, give me the milk. I don't really want the nut milks. I do like almond milk in my like shakes that I make, but not in my coffee. I can't get down with the nut milk and in the coffees. It just tastes a little weird to me. But Sai is saying that her daughter wants to go to LaGuardia High School. And so I guess she has to audition for it. I'm not like really aware of like the high schools and whatnot up there. And then she said that her daughter doesn't take rejection well, like kind of like her. And then Jenna talks about when she was at Parsons, and as soon as they got there and they had to show their work, they critiqued her work so bad that she would go to her dorm room every night and cry and drink tequila and just be sad. I could just picture her there and listening to like sad music. I don't know. Like that's just taking it like to heart. But you know what? Maybe sometimes it's good to have that really hard, critique, because now look at her. And I'm sure obviously the school brags that she went to school there. She probably comes and does speeches and whatnot. When you have like famous alumni and you're like, please come talk at the school so we can motivate all these kids and they think they can be you when they grow up. It's like on the Kardashians, Kylie Jenner went back to her high school. Like, how wild would that be? Because obviously everyone is a fan of her, and now they're like, oh my God, she's coming. She went to school here and now she's coming to our school. It's so cool. But Sai said she didn't think she was going to lose her cool the night before talking to Brynn.
Not today, Satan.
But she did. And Brynn told Jenna, this is why Sai was so upset. Brynn told Jenna that Sai hates her. So obviously that's why she kind of flipped out. And Sai has texted Brynn since this whole Satan debacle. And she said she didn't answer her. And she has her red receipt on and didn't answer. So I hate when people do that. It's just terrible. And then Sai was saying to like a text that Brynn must have sent the whole group before, she referred to herself as carbon monoxide in like this argument of the text. So she said, like, I don't just attack and scream and yell. I'm like carbon monoxide. I'll like slowly like poison you, and just like so calculating and crazy. I'm like, oh my God. Like, it's just so funny that she actually put that in a text, but like, it's one thing to think it, but to actually text and be like, yeah, I'm like carbon monoxide with you all. You won't see me coming, but I'm going to be right there poisoning you slowly and taking you down. It's like pretty crazy. But then we get Raquel. So I like her. She's going to be fun. She's going to be interesting. Her kids are there with her and her partner, and her daughter has like a little school project and it's about cooking. I was like, wow, that sounds fun. So they have to take a recipe that they usually make at home and then make it healthy, but the recipe already sound healthy. It was like kale and something else. So it's like, I don't really know how much more healthy you're going to get with that. But then we see the dogs, and the one dog is a little fat and it's sitting with Raquel's partner. And she's, I may be wrong, but she's a neuroscience psychologist or physicist, something with the brain and the neurologic thought of the brain. And she said that the partner spoils the dog so much and that she is always trying to like analyze their brain. And she's like, because Raquel was like, oh, like have the dog come over here and eat. She was like, she's anxious right now. Can't you tell? And she's like, stop trying to get in her brain and think she's one of your patients. And then she showed like the racked up spending for the dog. And it's like acupuncture, massage was like $700 a month, basically, for the dog. It's pretty crazy. But dog is living the life. Then we get Erin going to Brynn's apartment. So she's like huffing and puffing, walking up all these stairs. And she's like, I think Brynn purposely broke the elevator, so I had to walk up the stairs. And then Brynn is about to fill up a glass with Evian water. And then she's like, she can have tap water. That was so funny. It's like the ultimate diss. Like, you have to climb up all my stairs because the elevator is broken, and I'm giving you tap water. And Brynn claims that she did not have her dog there for the meeting because she didn't want Erin to play with the puppy and be happy. I mean, you don't want to be on Brynn's bad side. I'm telling you right now, because this meeting is rough. Erin walks in and Brynn, because she like has to get up to open the door so it's not locked. But then she like goes over to her couch and is on her phone, like acting like she doesn't even know Erin's coming in nor care. And she's like, oh, I left water for you on the counter. And it's just, you could cut the tension with a knife. It's just so weird. And then they kind of get into their feelings. And then Bryn's like, oh, you cut your hair because you're going through shit. And then in the confessional, Erin's like, yeah, I'm going through shit. Like my mom has cancer. And Brynn knows. So everyone knows that Erin's mom has cancer. So it's just like Brynn is just so mad at Erin that she doesn't really care about Erin's feelings till the end. But then Brynn brings up the radio debacle with Jeff Lewis. So my opinion, every time they show that clip back, Erin literally didn't say anything. It was Jeff Lewis. And I talked about that the last time I recapped New York. He gets the ladies on there, asks an awkward question. They're like, oh, I can't answer it. Or like, oh, no comment. And then he answers it. So that's really not Erin's fault. Like, what is she going to do? Scream at Jeff Lewis during the radio show? And we all know Jeff Lewis is like, that's why he's funny. He's just saying it. That doesn't make it true. Everyone says stuff about each other. Yeah, obviously it's not nice to insinuate that, but the way Brynn is so upset, I have a feeling everyone insinuates this about Brynn. And that's more of the issue. Because if you're not a call girl or a sugar baby, why would that bother you that much? Like if someone said I was that, I would like laugh and be like, yeah, okay, I wish. Like, give me that money for doing nothing. But Brynn is so upset that it's like, I think she's accused this quite frequently by a lot of people. And then she said, I just don't like to yell in public. And she's like, it was just so Staten Island. And then Erin said, don't call me Staten Island. I'm born and raised city person. And then Brynn was like, okay, city person. And then she's like, oh, I'm sorry, we're not carbon monoxide like you like that text. And then they bring that up. And then Brynn said that, I have to be honest, when I was talking to Jenna, she said, oh, you and Erin are okay. I'm surprised you forgave her that quickly. And she's like, then I was mad at myself and thought I was like stupid and a joke that I did forgive you that quickly for talking about the radio thing. So then in the confessional, Erin's like, okay, so you did forgive me and move past it, but then your ego got bruised. So you decided to make something up and throw me under the bus, pretty much. That's not exactly quote for quote what she said, but I feel like that's why Brynn was like, yeah, and I can't believe Erin said this about you. Like I could tell like when Brynn feels a little defeated, she like has to then reverse it to make you feel defeated. Like she wanted Jenna to feel bad about herself instead of Brynn feeling bad about herself. But then they hug it out, make up, because Erin has a little breakdown, the cancer, about her mom. They have some champagne and she's like, do you want some champagne? She's like, because I gave you tap water. It's like, I wanted to poison you with the tap water, but now we can have alcohol. And sorry, the dog isn't here. I didn't want you to have joy of touching the puppy. I wonder where the dog went. Like maybe her brother just took the dog for like a walk, because it's like, what are you putting it in the hallway? I don't know. It's weird. But then Jenna takes her son rock climbing indoors. I really honestly was half paying attention what they were talking about. You know how when you just get to some scenes, like I know I say all these shows don't have to have them fighting and have drama, but sometimes when it's the more like not as interesting person, like I do think Jenna's interesting, but she's just very meek and quiet in her scenes that I'm like, like half listen. I was like on Amazon, like looking at the Prime Day deals, honestly. So I was like half listening what they were doing when they were rock climbing. But then I really did perk up and pay attention to this. Jenna said she was getting her car. So she got a new 2024 Bentley Flying Spur that pulls up. And it said it was $217,625. So that is a definite upgrade from her hoopty little vintage Mercedes that broke down in the Hamptons. So definitely do not think she's having problems with money. But she said, surprisingly, which I was shocked when she said this, that the car is a hybrid because it's a big car. Bentleys are big cars and it's a big 4-door one. So it's not even like those. I feel like the most common Bentleys you see are like the 2-door ones. Like they still have the back seat and it's still a big car, but it's like the 2-door ones. You see so many in Florida. All the retired old people have them. And she said, this is a hybrid, which I was very surprised. And she said, so I won't run out of gas, which was so funny because that's what happened to the Hoopty. And I was not into the old vintage Mercedes. Like, obviously it's not a Hoopty. That's just what she was referring to at the episode before. But now that everyone's going to have the last laugh because this is a freaking nice car. And obviously some of them don't even have cars, because if Jessel had a car, I don't think she'd be racking up $900 a month on Uber. So maybe she could pay Jenna to drive her around in this Bentley, because I feel like this would be an excellent chauffeur car as well, because it's huge. If I had a ton of money, that's what I would have. I would be like Miranda Priestley on The Devil Wears Prada. I would have my big car and pay a driver to drive me around, because I would not want to be wasting money on public transportation. If I had all that money, I would want to buy my own car and be in my own car and have my own driver. So then, like, they're at your beck and call as well. Honestly, Jessel needs to look into that. I'm sure it's more than $900 a month like Uber, but I just think it's silly she's paying Uber $900 a month. They could be paying for like a parking spot up there, I feel like, at this point with the car. I also could see Jessel getting into so many car accidents if she owned a car up there. So maybe that's why he would never want her to have a car up there. But then we get Abe and Erin going to dinner, having some margaritas, and talking about what the issue is. Thank God. So finally we got it. So Abe sold their Bitcoin years ago without telling Erin, that is crazy. It's not like he like sold it and then weeks went by and she found out, like years. That's pretty wild. So he sold it really low when it was low. And then when she was watching the news or like whatever, she saw that it was really high. So she went to log on, pay a chunk of their mortgage. She said like she was going to sell the Bitcoin, pay a chunk of their mortgage off, and it was gone. That had to be very deceitful. That can be just as bad as cheating, because he's lying, manipulating, doing stuff behind her back, not telling her. Like, it's one thing, like, let's say he sold it without asking her. That's still terrible. But then he comes home and says, I sold it. At least you're telling her. I mean, you've already done it. So I would still be mad because we did not have a discussion and agreement to do it. But how do you let years go by and not tell her? And then she sits down to log on to look for it, and she feels like an idiot probably. And that's not all he's lying about. So he also lied about this debt from past business dealings. So then they show a flashback, and she said to Uba, when she was at that lunch with Uba and Rebecca Minkoff the previous episode, and she's like, yeah, I had a handbag line, but that was not my thing. Because obviously Rebecca Minkoff had a successful handbag line, which I talked about last time too. Obsessed with the bags back in the day. And she said they still had debt from that. And he like lied and told her they didn't. Like, why is he lying? Like, that's his wife. Your debt is her debt. Like, your marriage is connected. Sometimes I think men don't fully understand that. It's like, oh, well, this is the stress that I have to deal with. It's like, but this is in my name too. And we are married. So it's our debt, not just your worry. And that's really crazy that he lied about those things. So she said, you know, if you do this again, we're going to have a problem. Like, I'm getting over it. But obviously she felt a lot of deceit and not an excellent time to go through all this because her mom is going through cancer. And then Abe said he kind of felt like a pressure to provide a certain lifestyle for Erin. So she was insinuating and saying before she met him, she was flying around in private jets, and she's like, I never even had to sleep with anyone. But then I'm like, this is such an ironic comment, because she's like, Jeff Lewis was insinuating that Brynn is like a call girl or a sugar baby. And it's like, wait, Erin, were you a sugar baby? Or is she referring to like her family? She was flying around in private jets with her family. But then that's why the, oh, I didn't even have to sleep with anyone comment was weird. And the face Abe made was like, yeah, okay, you're not fooling me. You probably did sleep with them or touch the pee-pee to get on the PJ, as Lala would say. Remember, she said back in the day on Vanderpump Rules, she's like, if you have a vagina, you can ride on a private jet. I'm like, words to live by. You're going to tell your two daughters that one day? Like, no. But that was weird. Like the connection just because of Brynn and her having that whole argument about like getting things from rich men. I'm like, wait, but were you doing that? Very weird. But then Sai meets Uba to shop, and Uba is having like a nip malfunction in the store. She's like, oh, my nipples are hard. And then she's like, Sai's like, and why is the one up here? Like they're like crooked. And then they're trying to like fix it in front of the mirror. And Sai's like, are you wearing that Skims nipple bra? And Uba says, no, that's just the stupidest thing. Why would you want hard nipples? And I'm like, wait, that is so true. Thank you, Uba. Because Sai's over there saying like, oh, I think it's sexy. It's like, no. When I saw that bra existed, I'm like, that is the opposite that I want. I'm with Uba. I'm embarrassed if your nipples are hard. And I know that's like now a trend. That's the weirdest trend ever. I'm sorry. And we've had some weird trends, but no, that's weird. So strange. Like, and I don't need to buy a bra. Like they just naturally happen sometimes. So it's just so weird. So weird. But anything at this point, next Kim Kardashian is going to put like fake shit stains in Skims underwear and people are going to be like, oh my God, this is so cool. Like I want that. It's like, no. To me, it's the same thing as the nipple bra, honestly. But then they are kind of talking about Brynn and how she just yaps her mouth and gets into trouble. So Uba's boyfriend being like revealed last year by Brynn, only Sai knew about that. So obviously that's why Sai got upset with Brynn and that's where their beef started. Because she was probably concerned that Uba was going to be mad at her because Uba told Sai in confidence that she had a boyfriend that was in Connecticut. And then Brynn says it not only just to the ladies, but on camera. I think if the camera wouldn't have been there, Uba wouldn't have cared as much. She would have probably told them like, but please never say anything on camera. But then, Brynn had to stir the pot and she said it on camera and Sai was concerned that it was going to come between her and Uba. But Uba is not letting it come between her and Sai. She's more mad at Brynn for doing that because she should know that you shouldn't say it on camera. That's not nice. But then we get Brynn Jessel and Rebecca Minkoff meeting at Blade. So this is the hat that Brynn is always wearing. So like, does she work for them? It's advertised for them, do publicity for them. Again, this is why Jeff Lewis insinuated that you're a sugar baby because why aren't you saying, oh, and I do PR for this company? She was wearing the hat when she was talking to Erin because she used to wear it last season too. And I was like, oh, there's that Blade hat she was always wearing. And then now they're at Blade. So it's like fancy little airport and it's like private, like luxury helicopters. So there was 6 seats in it and you face each other and they're taking it to the Hamptons. Now that's riding in style. I think we need to get that one time for the summer house people. Like that would be interesting because let's just do that. Let's put Paige, Sierra, Amanda. Let's just put the ladies on it. Honestly, leave the men to drive the car, hump the suitcases, sit through the traffic because sometimes they need to be punished and that's what they need. Like just to deter for a minute, I can't wait to see this next season because I think we all liked West last season and now he's going to be an F-boy. He's going to be a jerk. I can already sense it. He thinks he's so cool. And it's a no because I love Sierra and I felt so sad watching the reunion for her. And I can already tell he's going to be a jerk and I'm not going to like him. And Jesse's probably they're going to be F-boys together. So how about everyone goes in these luxury helicopters and the two of you drive all the cars to the Hamptons with all the bags and take everything in by your lonesome while they're sipping champagne on this helicopter. It's so cool. Like, I've never actually been in a helicopter, and I know lots of people would always do the helicopter tours around New York. This is even cooler because there's way more room, and you get the view, and you don't have to sit in that traffic going to the Hamptons. So it's just cool. But Sai said she's going to drive because of the fog, and Brynn said she just doesn't want to be around me. And it's like true. She definitely doesn't want to be trapped in this little helicopter with you. And then they FaceTime Jenna, and she didn't know she had to tell them she wasn't going. Weird. It's just like, I wanted to drive my new car. And it's like, okay, but just tell them you're not going. Like, why do you think you don't have to tell them you're not going? Because they're now sitting in this little private airport hangar and waiting for you. So weird. I would definitely want to do this. Like, that's great. You have a new car, and I'm sure it's fun to drive to the Hamptons because it's not traffic like New York, but definitely would rather do this helicopter ride for sure. But then Brynn immediately says to Rebecca Minkoff, like, I feel like they took off, and she immediately says to her, so if people ask us about the Scientology stuff, what do you want us to say? Rebecca Minkoff's just like, just say no comment. And it's like, but what do you mean no comment? Like, TMZ won't rest for no comment. They just won't. Jessel's over there and she's like, being in Scientology is so popular with all the celebrities, so they're going to want to know. And I butchered her accent a little bit. But Brynn said in her confessional that Rebecca Minkoff was acting so weird, like a door-to-door salesman. And she's like, I'm not buying it. And I'm just going to say it. It's because what is she going to say? That Scientology, we've had all these documentaries on it painting a bad picture. And I don't think Rebecca Minkoff's going to say anything to them that it's going to be like, oh, yeah, that sounds lovely. I would love to join the cult. It's a cult. I'm sorry, it is. I walked by it when I was in LA, and it's just a cult. And like everyone knows it. And then Rebecca Minkoff in her confessional is like, maybe if they want to have a serious conversation about it, not in a helicopter ride where I can barely hear them, we will. But right now, she's like weirded out that they're asking her. But I think they want to get ahead of the game and just ask, well, what do you want us to say? Because we don't want to say the wrong thing and then you're mad at us. But I don't really know what they would say for people to not think it's weird, but that'll be interesting. So then the next episode, they're going to be in the Hamptons. So they're just staying at a house. They're not going to stay at Erin's house this time. They're going to stay in a giant house. So that's going to be good because we'll get them all liquored up, sleeping, having a sleepover, and that's when some drama will start, I think. So let's take a little break, and then we will recap The Real Housewives of Orange County. To all my listeners out there, it's not just the Bravo celebrities that want to look beautiful. We do too. Head on over to Studio One Salon for the most amazing extensions, cut, color, or even just a nice shampoo and blowout. Or when you go out with all your friends to talk about all the latest Bravo tea. Use my code BRAVOT with a stay-at-home mom to enjoy 10% off. And we're back, and I just have to say, this season of The Real Housewives of Orange County is giving us all the drama, all the anger. Like, do you guys yell at your TV during this? Like, this is how I relate to men when they're watching football and they're like, oh no, you should have passed it. Or, oh, get that. Oh, defense. Ugh. Sound like Tom Sandoval doing that. But I was yelling at the TV the other night watching Orange County because you all know who I was yelling about. Yes, the one and only.
You are psychotic, Jesus John. You're psychotic.
So let's just dive in and get it ready for this recap. So we got Heather Dubrow gathering all the ladies to get mammograms. So it's so funny though. She shows up at the office and they already planned ahead of time to all do this together. And she said to the front desk people, oh, do you have time for all my friends to do one too? And they're like, yeah. And it's like, yeah, obviously because the camera's here and you've already scheduled it ahead of time. I thought that was so odd. She said that. I don't want to dwell on it any longer, but I don't know if anyone else picked up on that. So some of the ladies have not even had one. Gina said she is about to be 40, so she needs to get one. And Shannon said it's been like 10 years since her last one. So everyone's getting mammograms. Instead of having like a happy hour, they get mammograms. So while they are all in the waiting room, Shannon reads the text that came from Jesus Jug's Alexis Bellino. So this is her rebuttal to after she kicked Jen and Katie out of the house because Jen is there. And she's like, yeah, she kicked us out of the house after you got that text or you sent that text. What did you get from her? So this is what Alexis has said. Hi, Shannon Bedore. Since you're hosting this amazing trip to Europe with our friends, surely you can scrounge up the funds to pay my future husband his $75,000 that you borrowed and owe him. Safe travels.
Shut up.
Shut up. Shut up, Alexis. First of all, at this juncture, they have only been together for 4 months. You are not engaged. They are current day, but they were not during this filming. So he's not your future husband yet. I was so held up on the our friends. who said that these are your friends too? You're just back on the show for this John Jansen thing, because I'm going to tell you right now, if she wasn't with John Jansen, she's lying through her teeth, just like something else that we catch her in a lie at the end of the episode that I can't wait to dive into. You would have not been like a friend of on the show. No one was even talking to you nor cared about you. It is literally all John Jansen. And she claims that production painted her in a bad light. I don't think they had to do that. You did that all on your own. And if she's trying to tell us that she talked about all this other stuff and the producers just piled together her talking about John Jansen, I really don't think she sat in front of this camera and talked about anything other than John Jansen. So that's solely why you're on the show, which it's because Shannon is on the show. So without Shannon being on the show and her ever dating this demon named John Jansen, you would not have been back on the show. So I just find it hilarious she sent this. She really thought she was big and bad answering Shannon's text back. So she's like, oh, I'll give it to her and I'll say something mean back too. And it's like, none of your business about the $75,000 too. I get it. This is now your boyfriend, not future husband, until you put a ring on it. And the ring is ugly, by the way, of the promise ring. So until that ugly promised ring turns into an engagement ring, that is not your future husband. And I feel she's just saying that as a zinger, like she's going to hurt Shannon's feelings. It's like, I'm pretty sure Shannon isn't jealous that you're potentially going to marry John Jansen. He's trying to sue her and extort her with those Ring camera footage videos. I don't think you saying it and rubbing it in her face that you guys are maybe going to get married, I don't think she's shedding a tear about that. She's honestly shedding stress tears because she's wants to get away from these two cuckoo birds so badly, but they keep like flying around her like a fruit gnat that's around your bananas when they're too brown, which, by the way, I have a couple bananas that are too brown and we're about to leave for Disney World in a couple days, but I am going to be making my famous banana chocolate chip bread that my husband is obsessed with. So I will post that when I make that because it's delicious and it's a key, I feel like, recipe for everyone to make when they have some bad bananas. But moving on. So everyone goes and gets their mammogram. Jen has a lump that she felt 5 months ago. And they're all like, 5 months ago? What? And she's like, even Ryan pointed it out. And I was just scared to come and get bad news. So then I had more bad news to tell my kids. That was so sad. You can tell she's the type of mother that puts every one of her kids before herself. And it's hard. Like, as a mom, we are like always worrying about everyone else besides ourselves. But thank God she's getting the mammogram. And thank God it was just tissue from her breast implant. So nothing to worry about. Everyone was okay, except no one asked how Heather's went. And she actually organized this mainly because breast cancer runs in her family. So we'll get into that later when they actually go to London and have a full-blown like argument discussion about it. But then Gina is seen with her two cute golden doodles and she's trying on this fluffy hat. She's like, I waited to wear this and now I have someone to wear it and I look like you guys. And then it's Clover and Meatball. Darn cutest doodles ever. And then Shannon is showing her two daughters the picture that Emily gave her for her birthday. And she's like, I look like a madam. And all I thought about was when Teresa said that about Kim D. And she's like, oh, you're like a magnum. So instead of calling it a madam, she's like, oh, yeah, you're like a magnum and you're in charge of all these ladies.
Ha ha, laugh, funny.
Back then it wasn't funny, but now they've made up since and they're like friends again, which I find astonishing, to be honest. I definitely think it's because Kim perhaps would like to be back on the show, but we also don't know the safety of everyone on that show. But moving on, Tamara is packing up for the trip and Eddie, we discover his vocabulary mishap. Instead of saying pretty, he says purdy. Now I say purdy as like a joke, but he like literally says like, oh, that's purdy. Like, dead serious, dead ass serious. And he's asking about if Tamara and Jen are going to get in like World War III while they're over in London. And she said that Jen basically gave her like a no backbone answer when she's like, I'd like to talk to you. And she's like, okay, but not right now. Like, Tamara is trying to insinuate that Jen is very robotic and kind of talks with like no emotion, but I think it's because Jen wants to compose herself to a point on camera. Like some people take that route. They either would like to be respectable and composed on camera, or some people are the opposite and extra dramatic, which is how I feel Tamara is. She is extra dramatic. And I'm not saying we can't be dramatic, but I do not sit at dinners with my friends and scream at them. And if I'm having an issue with them, I don't sit and scream at them at a dinner. And if the camera wasn't there, perhaps Tamara wouldn't either. And Jen doesn't want to act like that. So London was pretty spicy. So they all leave for London. But then Emily is brushing her teeth on the airplane and she has no water to rinse out her mouth. She doesn't have a water bottle in sight. So she uses Dr. Pepper, which was quite gross. And then Heather Dubrow gets to the front of the plane and does the little announcements. And she's like, we are now descending into London, and I would like everyone to know it's Shannon's 60th birthday, and she is single. I feel like it's literally their mission to get Shannon like laid on this trip. And it's so funny because like when they arrive, the guy that's like at the door isn't even attractive. And they're like, oh, let's get his number for Shannon. I'm like, oh my God, let's also have standards for Shannon. My God. And like, what do you want her to hit it and quit it and leave the country? I mean, let's try and maybe find her someone in Orange County. I feel like where they live though in Orange County, it's like small and everyone knows everyone. So if you've already had like a bad relationship, it's like everyone already knows who you are. And I could see a lot of men there not wanting to get involved with any of these ladies on the show because they don't want to be on the show. Not like Ryan, like you can tell like him and Jen do love each other, but you can tell he's the type that's like, oh, you're going to be on TV? That's so exciting. I love that. Please do it and sign us up. Whereas some men are like, oh my God, can you please not be on the TV show? I know you really want to do it, but I don't want you to do it because I don't want to be on the show. So you got two different types. But then Shannon is giving all the ladies these themed bucket hats with kind of like the flag on them, very touristy. And then Burberry scarves, which are $545 each. But then in the confessional, Katie's loving it. But then in the confessional, Jen says, you could have given me a fake one, Shannon, and I would have even known. And then they do a flash of like her wearing all her Balenciaga sweaters last season, which is so funny. Oh, I mean, you know, some of these people have fake stuff. Like I feel like I'm relating everything to Jersey on this episode, but you know damn well Teresa's exercise outfit is not a real Chanel exercising outfit. It is like from the boardwalk or from like a website on Instagram, which is totally fine. I don't care. Now, if Heather Dubrow is in a Chanel exercise outfit, you best believe she has the receipt from Chanel and that is real. But some of these ladies are not walking in to get a sweater that has a little Chanel emblem and pay thousands of dollars for it. And that's fine. But I thought that was so funny because Tamara would call Jen out on it all last season. And honestly, it's kind of like, who cares? Like I have a Chanel baseball hat that I got at the mall that was like $30. It's like, are you going to call me out on camera and be like, that's not real? Do you know what I'd say? Like, yeah, you're right. It's not real because I don't want my sweaty, smelly head to be in a real Chanel hat anyway. Even if I can afford the baseball hat, I want to wear it to the gym and sweat and whatnot. So of course I'm going to buy these cheap ones, but it's cute. But then in the confessional of Tamara's, she said, maybe you should stop spending money, Shannon, because you're being sued and you're buying us all scarves.
Rotten Hill.
You know, that is not how you treat someone, that it is their birthday. They are doing this trip for their birthday. You say thank you. And you know what? If you're that perturbed by the Burberry scarf and so concerned, give it back to her and say, here's the money back. But instead you shit talk her on camera and then you freaking take the scarf. But then Heather did say, maybe you should save this for the lawsuit. Maybe we could donate it to the John Jansen Facelift Fund. So that was kind of funny. But then Tamara and Heather stay behind while everyone scatters to their rooms. Their hotel rooms are super nice, by the way. They're gossiping over a little champagne. And they are talking about when Shannon was on Jeff Lewis's radio show. So I listened to this all the way back in the summer when she was on the radio show, as soon as they showed the clip, I totally remember listening to it. They're talking about the $75,000 because Shannon and Jeff Lewis are close. They're friends. And he's like, I know the story about the money, but you did need money and he did give you some like money. And it was not a one big chunk. It was like a couple, I think, payments, what they were referring to. And he's like, and it was not for a facelift. And Shannon was like, no. This is what I think. I think she needed money. And then she happened, after he gave her some money, to get a facelift. But that does not mean that all of the money he gave her was for a facelift. Like, I don't think Shannon is going to be like, hi, can you give me $75,000 for a facelift? And maybe I'm in denial. Like, do facelifts cost $75,000? That seems really steep. They do live in Orange County, though. And I don't know, that just seems like a lot. I would think like maybe 30, 20. I don't know. That's what I mean. If anyone knows, please tell me. But also, she said on the show to Jeff Lewis, I said to John, or John said to her, I wish you could get a low interest loan. And she said, well, you have money. So that right there is a little sketch. So he was insinuating maybe you should go get a low interest loan. And she said, well, you have me money, meaning like, can you loan me money? But at the end of the day, if they did not sign things, which we'll get into later because she brings that up, to me, he's just giving it to you and it's a gift. But I'm also getting a little confused. Who needs a loan when they get $30,000 a month from their ex-husband and make their own money? Because that's what Shannon gets. Shannon gets alimony from David. And my husband said, because I said, how long do you get alimony? Is it like forever until you get remarried? Because then, excuse me, some people would never be getting remarried. He said it's usually half the time you were married. So I have a feeling her and David were married for like 20, 25 years. So let's say it's 20 years. She would get alimony for 10 years. I don't even remember how long they've formally been divorced. So perhaps her alimony is done and we're almost done. But let's just go with the point that she still gets the alimony every month. She gets $30,000 a month just for being Shannon Storm's Bedore. And then she makes her own money on top of it. I know she does have 3 daughters and they are all not underage anymore. So she's not getting child support, but I'm like getting confused why she needed a loan and why you would get a loan with interest. Because when you get a loan, you have to pay interest back, which is putting you out more money and more in debt. So yeah, they're giving you the money, but then you have to pay the interest back. So I would love to know. And I think I'm going to do a little research if she is still getting the alimony every month from David, because that would definitely make me scratch my head why she even needed a loan anyway. But then they are all going sightseeing and Shannon wants them to put on the bucket hats. And Tamra, in her confessional, is trying to dog on the bucket hats, which I don't know why, because you know what? The 90s is real hot right now. And I think bucket hats are very trendy. But Tamra said that they are not cute. And even if it says Prada, that it's not cute. But you know what, Tamra? I'm sorry. I don't think anyone needs fashion advice from you this season because every look you have worn in your confessional is awful. So you know what?
Shut up. Shut up.
I know she slides into my DMs and still likes my stuff, but she is getting under my skin this season. Getting under my skin. Then they go on the boat tour. And I love that the lady that was doing the boat tour was like, oh, I love your hats. It's like girl power. And it's like, yeah, right. Because Tamara was just shit talking on the bucket hats. And now somebody's complimenting the bucket hats. And yes, do they look touristy? But you know what? That's cute. Like, I'm going to go to Disney World. I'm going to look like a tourist. Like, I don't live in Florida. I don't live in Orlando and go to Disney World every day. You want to do the cute, funny, touristy pictures? You do. You just do. I'm sorry. So, Tamara, if you're so annoyed, return the Burberry scarf, give Shannon the money back, and even give the bucket hat to someone else. Maybe like Vicky. Maybe Vicky should have came on the trip instead of you. But then they go speedboating through London, which is odd. And they look really cold and they have their hoods up and it doesn't look fun. And Heather said she'd rather be shopping at Harrods. And it's like, me too, girl. I don't know if I'd want to do this. I'm sure they will take a shopping extravaganza. But you know how sometimes I feel like the next episode will get them divide and conquer. It's like, half of us are going to go shopping and then the other half of us are going to do like an exploration thing that no one wants to do and everyone just wishes they were shopping. I always wonder if the producers assign who is doing what with each other, because I would be pissed if they like made me do something and I didn't get to go shopping. I'm sure my husband would be glad the producers forced me to go do an activity instead of spend money and shop, but I would be like, no, I want to go shopping. And then Katie and Jen are getting glam. And I also just can never fathom how these people fly and pay for these glam people to come on the trip. It's like not down the block. Like I get if they're at home and they're all going to a dinner, I would probably schedule my hair. Like let's say you needed to get your hair cut, colored, blowout. I would probably schedule that around me going to one of these dinners that's being filmed. Sometimes that's what I do here. I'm like, oh, I'm going to get my hair done this Friday because we're going to dinner. And I would do that. And yeah, maybe I would pay the glam squad to come to my house and do my makeup, but I don't understand how they are paying for their services, paying for their hotel room, and then paying for their flight to London. Like, no. And then sometimes they show up at these dinners and they literally look like they could have done the makeup themselves. Like Katie is such a pretty girl, but I'm not trying to be a hater or mean. Literally could have done that makeup yourself. Literally. Like in her confessional, you can tell she got glam and she looks stunning. But at this dinner, it's like, I don't understand why you couldn't have done that all yourself. And even Jen, it's like, you definitely could have done that yourself as well. But then Gina and Emily were talking about that. And Gina was like, this is why I don't understand that Jen is doing things like this and has financial problems. And then Gina said, I'm all about glam. But what you do is you pay to get glam and then have them teach you and then you just do it yourself. And the producer was like, beating the system and cheating. And she's like, yep, basically. But it's true. I don't see there any problem with paying for your glam to come to your house and then almost paying them for like lessons and then seeing what they use, go out, splurge on the makeup brushes for sure. The makeup brushes I feel are key. Splurge on those. And then I love the dupes. I'm so into the dupes for makeup because the e.l.f. brand, the Milani brand, the NYX brand, NYX, NYX, however you say that. It's a debate. Love it. And you just have to make sure the makeup is highly pigmented. Like people think that you need to just go to Sephora, usually the younger generation, which we're all guilty of that. And like, oh, let me buy this concealer because it's $50. It's going to be the best. Not always necessarily. There's amazing dupes out there. So maybe we just need to get Katie and Jen going on Pinterest, going on TikTok, and just learn from the Glam Squad. And then next season, they won't have to pay them to fly to London. But then they all get to dinner and Tamara is just asking about the mammogram trip. And then here we go with Heather. She's going to immediately cry. And I do get why she did, but I just think it's funny that it's like when other people cry in front of her, it's a problem. But now since it's something about Heather, she wants to be like, yeah, and I can't believe you didn't do this. And it's like, well, sometimes you're not understanding when other people are crying. But I did really feel bad for Heather because everyone kind of did ask each other when they got done with their mammograms how it went. And no one really asked Heather. But then they all looked shocked and confused. And Shannon was like, I thought we heard you like screaming in that room and yay. And then we were like, oh, okay, Heather's good. And she's like, no, I was saying yay for Gina. Well, they didn't know the door's closed. You know what I mean? And then Gina is having some suspicion why Heather has bottled this up, waited a couple weeks. Cause I think it's been like 2 weeks since their mammogram and why this is happening. And I'm going to tell you right now. Tamara asked this question so strategically. I think her and Heather were conniving. And Heather said, no one asked about my mammogram. And Tamara's probably like, that's awful. And she's like, can you ask in the middle of dinner? Or plan B, that Heather told Tamara, nobody asked about my mammogram. And in Tamara's brain, she went, No one asked. I am going to ask at dinner and throw everyone under the bus and not tell Heather. So there's either option A, Heather was aware, or option B, Tamara connived all in her own brain and did that. But Heather said that at her age, she should be at an 11% for risk. She's at 40%. And that's really bad. And the breast cancer is in her family. So that's why she even wanted to do the mammogram to begin with. And they said she has dense breast tissue. And she's like freaking out a little bit. And she said Terry's freaking out a little bit. And I've felt bad for her, but I do agree with Gina. It's like, well, why didn't you call me right away and tell me you're upset with me? I don't like when people do that or friends do that. Tell me right away that you're upset with me and I will apologize, or we will work it out and figure it out, but don't hold it all in. But then Katie said that she would love to know about her medical history because she's adopted. So a lot of people don't even want to like find their birth parents. What they're just interested in is the medical records, because this is case in point. Heather is being precautionary because breast cancer runs in her family, whereas Katie can't be precautionary with anything because she doesn't have access to her medical history, which is scary and terrible. So she said for her 40th birthday, she was talking about how they're going to take a trip and she is going to meet her birth mother. And she said her mother worked in a factory up until the day she was born, and she was 15 when she had her. And she said she kept her for like 3 days and then realized she couldn't have her. And that was so sad. I really did feel really bad for her. And I feel like that's why Katie and Jen get along well, because Jen adopted a little boy with her ex-husband, and her and Katie are like connecting on that. And Jen's like, oh, I love that you're going to go meet your mom. Jen is just such a sweet soul. So even if Ryan can seem shady, I feel bad for her when Tamara attacks her, because also it's like, you know what, Tamara, if Jen wants to be with a shady fella, that's going to be her prerogative in business. Just, she's a grown woman. You just leave her be. Honestly, that's how I feel. But then Tamara and Heather, so here we go. Buckle up, everybody. They bring up the Jeff Lewis stuff to Shannon. And I feel bad for Shannon. I mean, every episode, Shannon is crying. She is having a nervous breakdown. I feel so bad. Like, she's probably just like, Jesus Christ, we left the country. Can we just not talk about John Jansen? But you know what? It's the name of the game. We need the drama. I'm sorry, Shannon, that it's at your expense this year. So they talk about how she was talking about the loan with Jeff on the radio, and she said that John tried to send her a promissory note, I guess after he gave her the money. And then they were like, wait, what? This is the first time you've ever said that. And then she's like, frazzled. I could tell Shannon's frazzled, because also she's like, I'm in the middle of a lawsuit. So that is true. Like, you shouldn't really even be talking about anything. And I bet the lawyer tells these ladies when they're like on TV shows and going through shit, like, don't talk about it. We know the producers are saying talk about it because you're on TV, but I'm your lawyer and this is a legal matter. Do not talk about it on TV. So Heather thinks that Shannon came to her on that trip when she was having a nervous breakdown for the camera. And that was terrible. I don't think that at all. I think Shannon was at a breaking point and had to tell Heather. And of course, the camera people want to freaking film it. That's not Shannon's fault. Like, if she said, please don't bring the camera in here, we're having a nervous breakdown, they'd probably be like, I don't care. That's why some people are suing Bravo for like emotional damage. But all of these people know what they sign up for, and it's probably clear stated in their contracts. So you can't now be mad at Bravo for wanting to film drama. But Shannon said that she will never know if John heard her accident or not. And then they say what she said on Jeff Lewis is not that. And what she said, because Jeff was like, do you think he heard your accident or not? And Shannon went, you know, Jeff, I've just never thought about it. I don't think she is like switching stories and lying and whatnot. I think when Jeff brought that up months ago on the radio, she really didn't want to talk about it. So it was almost not like oh, I don't know because I just don't know. And then like, I'm going to tell Heather a totally different story and make it seem like I'm lying. I think she was just saying that so he shut it down. It's almost like, oh, I don't know, I've never thought about that. Let's move on. And doesn't want to divulge more into that. And Heather and Tamara are just poking. And Shannon, poor thing, is crying again on her birthday trip. And then the food is coming out. It's like smoking all over. And the waiters are like bringing this food and it's just like smoking and they're trying to have an argument. And it looks so funny. Like at first during the preview, like the commercial, I thought like there was a fire on the table, like, or one of the ambiance candles like blew out in the smoke, but it's all their fish is coming in like smoking. Then Tamara says to her, because Shannon gets up, smoking fish is there, and then she's like, you know what? I'm done. I want to leave. I want to go home. She gets up, and then Tamara said, you're not the effing victim. I literally can't believe these ladies are treating her this way on her freaking birthday trip. It is wild to me. And then Shannon is trying to get the elevator down and she's yelling at Tamara and she's like, you know, victims just lay around and don't help themselves and keep blaming. I am working on myself. And it's like, it's true. She's trying to work on herself and move past this. But if all these women want to do is down her and talk about the negative stuff every time they're around her, it's going to make it seem like she's victimizing herself because she's going to defend herself. But what's she going to do? And then Tamara's laughing at her. And Shannon said, oh, thanks for laughing. And Tamara said, it looks like it's because you're behind jail bars, because where Shannon was standing waiting for the elevator, it's like black bars that really did look like she was in jail. But that's so rude. Oh my God. Like if we thought Tamara couldn't get more rude, I mean, it's getting crazy to me. You don't treat someone you used to be friends with this way unless they did something directly to you. Like I have had friends that I am not friends with anymore and they did something to me. And that's why I am mad and I don't like them and I will talk about them in a negative light. But for Shannon and Tamara, it's almost like Tamara just got sick of Shannon. Shannon never did anything to Tamara. So I feel like her hate for Shannon is so sad. It's so sad. Like Shannon sued Tamara. Like that's how mad she is at Shannon. If you don't want to be friends with her, be cordial for the show. And then that's it. Like you don't have to be best friends with everyone on these shows. Because they put people together. It's no longer they take a group of friends and like, oh, look at us, we're all friends. They just shove people together and they're like, please film together, even if you guys aren't friends and never have met each other. I'm sure if that happened to me around here in Delaware, I would be with people I don't like and I would yell at them and argue with them at these dinners as well. But Tamara and Shannon used to be close. So it's really sad to me to see how mean she's being. And then Tamara said, I'm not going to chase after her. She's probably running to the bar. And then wouldn't you know it, the producers do Shannon dirty and she's crying, ordering a Diet Coke and a Belvedere soda. Oh my God, poor Shannon. Poor Shannon. But then good old Gina comes down to comfort Shannon. And we got vindication like we've never seen before. So Shannon said, I am just so sick of Tamara defending Alexis and treating me this way because you know what, Gina? When I went to uninvite Alexis Bellino from this trip, I had already had a text message with her back from 2018, and this is what it said. So she read it. And then we got a picture of it on screen because I already made memes about these. June 27th, 2018. Shannon, everything you and Tamara have said in the media since the divorce are lies. We have engaged in an attorney and will be suing you and Tamara for slander and defamation. Your insensitive and false allegations come at a very difficult time for our family. You will be hearing from you will be hearing from me and Jim's attorney. That is literal proof out of Alexis's mouth that she and Jim Bellino did this defamation lawsuit to Shannon and Tamara, that she was involved. She literally said, me and Jim, what else do you need? Gina's face, mouth wide open. Gina was like, oh my God, I can't believe this. And she is right there with Shannon, thank God. She's like, you have a right to be upset. And I'm so glad that she has Gina and Emily, because Emily won't know this information yet, but I can't wait until the next episode. When everyone finds out, how are they all going to feel now? How are they all going to feel now? Because, okay, Heather, if you want to be friends with Alexis, that's fine, because you weren't involved in this lawsuit, that's fine. But how are you going to hear this information, see this information? And then when Alexis says, oh, I had nothing to do with it, you need to look at her and say, actually, you did, because look at this. Oh my God, like, why is no one doing that? Shannon needs me on the show because I would have been doing that. Oh my God. I mean, I hate too. At the table, they're still talking about Shannon. And Tamara's like, if you have to say words like honestly, or let me just be honest with you, then what? Everything else you're saying is a lie? No, that's just how we talk. I say that, and I'm not a liar, but I'll say, honestly, blah, 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 blah. Because you're just telling someone, hey, I'm being like real honest. Not that I'm not honest all the time, but that's just how we talk. I mean, it's just, she is picking everything. You would think Shannon like ran over Tamara's dog, the vengeance she's having on her. And you're the one that was always screaming at Alexis, nicknamed her Jesus Jugs to begin with, never liked her. And now proof in the pudding that she was part of the lawsuit with Jim. And Shannon texts Tamara, because then that text showed up and it said, I just pulled up my text message with Alexis. She was in the lawsuit. And then Tamara went, oh, I forgot, because she didn't have my number back then. Huh. Even more proof. She didn't even have your phone number back then. At least she always had Shannon's phone number. You were never friends. Why Tamara wants to do this to Shannon, I don't understand why. But, God punished Tamara. I'm going to take it that route, because of everything she was doing to Shannon this season, giving her so much grief and thinking that lawsuit was no big deal between her and John Jansen. Now, Ryan is suing Tamara for defamation. Wouldn't you know? Wouldn't you like that? And he's using the same attorney as Jim Bellino. So guess what? That's not going to be good for you, because when a judge or anybody sees that you've already been through something just like this with the same attorney, they're going to say, obviously you're the problem, not these two men. It's obviously you, because now you're the common denominator. And it's the same thing. It's defamation. Back in the day, Shannon and Tamara went on a podcast, yapped their mouth about Jim Bellino. He sued for defamation. Now, Ryan is suing Tamara for defamation because on the last episode, she's yapping her mouth about the FBI. And she's going on podcasts talking about them on her own podcast. Honestly, all these people are getting in trouble on all these podcasts because they're just yapping their mouth. And if it's not true or not proven, that's how you get defamation. Now, if it's true, like if she said, Ryan wears ugly splattered jean jackets, that is true. You can't sue for defamation for that, because sadly he does wear those ugly jackets. But her saying the stuff about the FBI, you don't know for 100% fact that happened. So you can't say that on TV. I'm real shocked she hasn't learned, because when you make an extreme accusation, you better make sure it's true, because that's the only way you could get saved. But the next episode looks good. We are going to be in Disney World, so I'm going to be missing it. So when we come back the following week, I will just smush together my recap, and I will do 2 weeks worth of Real Housewives of New York and Real Housewives of Orange County. And next week looks really good. It looks like Tamara is going to tell Shannon to shut the F up. And I'm probably going to be yelling at the TV all over again, because it's wild what's happening to Shannon on her own trip. I wouldn't even be surprised at this point if frickin' John Jansen and Alexis Bellino pop out somewhere in London. They're all sightseeing and they're like, oh, We just had to come and ruin the trip because we're annoying, because we can't have a life. I still have to watch What Happens Live. But later on Watch What Happens Live, I did see this clip on the internet today. So Andy did like the polls, and then he's like, we're getting a lot of questions like where the lawsuit is now. So Shannon said back when they were filming the show, she offered the full $75,000 and he would not sign a non-disparagement agreement. So she said current day where we are is he's willing to accept my offer, but he wants me to write a statement saying how wonderful he is. Oh my God, Alexis, and you're going to marry someone like this? Like what? Why does John care if Shannon thinks he's wonderful or not? And the fact that you're making her write that, no one thinks that you are wonderful. I'm just going to be dead serious, because if you have to convince us that you're wonderful, you're not wonderful. Okay? All right.
As always, this was so fun, and you could find me on Instagram at Bravo T with the Stay at Home Mom, Spotify and Apple. Till next time, see ya.